solve our square root problems now. So our steps to solving our square roots, we're going to isolate our radical, where that's this symbol and whatever's underneath that. Then we are going to square both sides, because remember, squaring is the opposite of our square root. And then we're going to solve. And this may involve using our factoring strategies or our quadratic formula. I put the quadratic formula here for you, but you might have to go back to your notes on our factoring. And then you should check your answer. So let's just dive right into this first example. We've got 5 square root of n minus 4 equals 0. So we need to isolate the radical and whatever's underneath the radical. That means that anything that's being multiplied, divided, added, or subtracted to it needs to go away before we can do anything else. So right now we're multiplying 5. So remember, the opposite is divide by 5. So divide both sides by 5. And we're left with the square root of n minus 4 equals 0. Divided by 5 is just 0. Now we're going to move on to second step, square both sides, because that's what's going to get rid of this radical. So what's going to be left is just what was underneath, 0 squared. 0 times 0 is just 0. Okay, now we're just isolating the variable. That's how we're solving this one. So right now we're subtracting 4. So we're going to add 4. So n equals 4. So for that one, that's it. That's all we had to do. Okay, let's look at a more complicated example. So first step was isolate the radical. Well, the radical and what's underneath the radical is on one side by itself. So second step, square both sides. Square this side, square this side. Okay, so on this side we've got x minus 4 squared equals 5x minus 24. All right, here's one of the more tricky parts. First thing we need to do is multiply this out. Remember, this is x minus 4 times x minus 4. And we have to FOIL. We have to say x times x, so x squared, x times negative 4 minus 4x. Negative 4 times x minus 4x. Negative 4 times negative 4, positive 16. Combine like terms. So really on this side we've got x squared minus 8x plus 16 equals my 5x minus 24 on that side of the equal sign. Okay, we are still trying to solve. So let's get everything on one side equal to 0, and then we can factor or put it into the quadratic formula. So minus 5x plus 24 here plus 24 here. So we're going to have x squared minus 13x plus 40 equals 0. All right, now we can factor or use the quadratic formula. So if you have a simple one like this, you can get to a variable equals a variable. If you're getting down and you're going to have an x squared, you're going to either have to use factoring or your quadratic formula. Let's use factoring. Let's do the split b method. So remember, we take a times c, so 1 times 40, that's 40. And b is negative 13. I'm going to flip back to my notes, and if this number is positive and this number is negative, that means both of my factors have to be negative. That's negative 41. So negative 2, negative 20, that's negative 18, negative 4, negative 10. I'm just running through my That's not negative 6. That's not negative 18. It's negative 14. Negative 5 and negative 8. That's negative 13. These are split b factors. So x squared minus 5x minus 8x plus 40 equals 0. Okay. Let's keep going. Remember, now we need to factor by grouping. So common factor here is our x. Take that out. We're left with x minus 5. That sign travels down. Common factor here is our 8, and that's x minus 5. So we've got x minus 5 times x minus 8. These are our factors. We're not done. We have to solve it, so we need to set each of these equal to 0. X minus 5 equals 0. Add 5, x equals 5. X minus 8 equals 0. Add 8 to both sides. X equals 8. X equals 5 and 8. All right, let's do another example that I know that's going to get me a squared and my response, and let's use our quadratic formula. So, isolate the radical. That is, it's isolated already. Okay, so let's square both sides because that's step number 2. Square both sides. We've got v minus 7 squared equals just what's underneath, 29 minus 2v. All right, this really is v minus 7 times v minus 7. So v squared minus 14v plus 49 equals 29 minus 2v. I didn't do all of the math out on my paper, but I just FOILed it and combined like terms like always. I'm going to move all of these to one side. So minus 29 add 2v plus 2v. V squared minus 12v plus 20 equals 0. All right, let's plug it into our quadratic. Remember, this is A, B, and C. We're going to use opposite. So x is going to equal the opposite of b, so it's negative, so that means positive, plus or minus the square root of 12 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Nope, leave that up. All right, let's start simplifying. I'm going to plug this into the calculator. So we've got 12 plus or minus the square root of 64 all over 2. Now I'm going to simplify my radical. The square root of 64 is 8. It's perfect square, so we don't have to worry about any radicals in our answer, but you might get radicals in our answer. Okay, here is, now I have to take this 2 ways. I'm going to do 12 plus 8 divided by 2 and 12 minus 8 divided by 2. We've got to take into account that plus and minus, and this gives us 10 and 2. So x equals 2 and 10. And that's our answer. All right, let me know if you have any questions solving our square root problems.